大家好，欢迎来到我们的 podcast。今天有特别的客户，他的名字叫 Rick， 他是美国来的，还是一种美军怎么说？航空公司 Air Force
空军飞行员。
My Chinese isn't good enough yet, so Rick will be helping me here today. Rick was originally in the Air Force for 27 years, and he's been an instructor, commander, and flew mostly on the C-1330. Today he's in Taiwan because he wants to practice and learn Chinese, and today he's in our school to share his experience of being in the Air Force, also being a diplomat in various countries, and also to practice some Chinese, kind of like myself. That's why I'm here, and that's why Rick's here. So, hope you all enjoy, and yes, welcome to the show, Rick.
谢谢你，
你可以介绍一下。
谢谢热情的欢迎，我很期待我的今天的机会，谢谢你。
OK， 那我的刚刚介绍太简单了，所以你可不可以介绍自己的历史多一点？你在哪里工作？现在为什么来台湾？
当然可以。我正在学中文，已经学了1年了。我大学毕业以后，我直接进入美国空军。成为一名飞行员，我当飞行员当了27年，我最后在空军的工作是武官，所谓武官，我在美国驻菲律宾大使馆工作了，从空军退役以后我成为一名外交官，所以到现在我当外交官当了8年了。你已经告诉我们的观众，现在我学中文，可是明年6月我得去大陆工作，可是我更喜欢留在这儿，台湾，我很喜欢台湾，我跟我太太都也很喜欢台湾，我很快适应台湾的生活，台湾人都很友好，这是我，谢谢你的你的友好我期待跟你聊天。
我也期待，我也同意，台湾那么好很好的国家，好舒服。我中文名字也是舒服，因为台湾生活很舒服。so, 我也同意。那你的工作体验非常有趣的，非常丰富的。所以你原来是空军的Air Force pilot， 可是后来你当 Delta 的飞行员，航空员，为什么离开空军？为什么当 Delta 的飞机员呢？为什么离开 Delta？ 比较快。
是很好的问题，我的回答有一点复杂，主要的原因是开飞机27年以后，我发现了我很喜欢为我的国家服务，所以虽然我很喜欢开飞机，因为我最后的空军的工作是武官，我适应大使馆的工作，大使馆的生活，所以我决定成为一名外交官，所以我可能继续服务为我的国家服务。
OK， 很好，很感动的，很感动。
你可以说我是一位 爱国人，
对，真是很好诶，要保护自己的国家，对不对？那你觉得有一些那个习惯，因为当这种的工作非常难，你有没有一些习惯，就是每一天在生活里你会做什么，就是让你的生活比较好一点？Some habits。
好。我有很多习惯。作为飞行员，我觉得你应该每天都做运动，你得教育工作和生活平衡，就是所以每天我把焦点放在这些习惯每天我不是跑步，我就是去健身房运动所以我可能维持我的工作和生活的平衡还有我的家人和朋友对我很重要我常常靠他们也是我的工作过得不好我一定知道我回家以后我可能跟我太太跟我的儿子们孩子们谈一谈变得我的生活很好
好听我们大部分的学生比较年轻，所以他们没有家庭，没有小孩，所以他们可能不懂这个有小孩有家庭，自己的小孩怎么如何，所以对他们来说，他们还没有家庭，所以当航空员比较 OK。你这么balance 你的工作，你要搬家。去很多国家，可是还有家庭，还有小孩，你会怎么 balance？让这个balance 一下，我不知道这个单词 balance
平衡
，OK， 这么平衡你的生活、工作还有家庭，
要是你没有家庭吗？
就是没有说你这么平衡家庭还有工作还有搬去很多国家
可能有的时候可能很难因为你的工作很忙，没有时间教育你的私人的要求可是很重要在我看来你得每天做运动，这是我的爱好要是你的爱好跟我不一样你得花时间做你最喜欢的活动这可能帮你维持你的工作和生活的平衡
了解就是很难，可是要努力试试看
其实这是我的口头禅努力工作尽情玩乐用英文就是 work hard play hard
work hard play hard good mantra
我有好几个口头禅，可是这是我最喜欢的每天无论你做什么工作你应该尽最大努力但是工作以后为了保持工作和生活的平衡，你应该放松一下 说你最喜欢的活动，这是我的生活的秘密。
OK， 我喜欢，我同意。对，就是认真工作，下班那出去玩。那你对航空员的话，很多人都觉得航空员的生活很简单，就是开飞机那就是留在一个饭店2-3天去海边，会好好休息。可是你觉得是对的吗？那个当航空员是生活那么简单，生活会那么快乐吗？有没有困难的？
我不同意你说的，对不起，就是当飞行员是一个很难的工作，你应该把焦点放在你的工作当然当飞行员是一个很好的工作，可是有很多风险，所以 yeah, it's nice to think of pilot lifestyle being so sexy and laying on the beach and strolling through airports unencumbered by security. But at the end of the day, being a pilot is serious work, and it's even with the accidents that have happened in the past, safety takes the priority, and that really should be your focus as a pilot.
Of course. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Nor unicorns.
No unicorns.
Yeah.
It looks like it.
Yeah. I know, it may look like it, but a good pilot can make it look easy, but it's not.
Okay.
A lot of preparation goes into the road to becoming a commercial pilot. So focus on that. Is my advice.
So perhaps the process of it is hard, but once you're walking, I mean, I saw someone on Twitter write, pilots have low-key aura. Aura is like how's aura? Aura is just an English word for like coolness. Like when you see the pilots walk through the airport, there's just something so cool about them.
Well, I think they consciously or unconsciously make the effort to look cool, because nobody wants to climb into an airplane where the pilot looks frazzled or nervous, right? So yeah, I think that's a good quality of a pilot, actually, that they look cool. But I mean, when you talk to them, hopefully they're humbly confident. But being confident and cool, I would much rather be in an airplane where the pilot is calm, cool, and collected, flying the airplane. So there's some truth to what you say.
Yeah, with our wee chat today, we'll keep it kind of casual. Talk a bit about our lives. Well, your life mostly, not my life. I'm just a teacher here.
I'll never say just a teacher. You understand, teachers are one of the most important professions on the planet.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As maybe the Britishness, we're very self-deprecating. We make fun of ourselves a lot. We're not very confident in ourselves. I'd be a bad pilot. I'd be walking in. Sorry guys, sorry. So that's why we need guys like you to be pilots. Yeah. So we'll just keep it kind of casual today. So for anyone listening, for Guangzhong, just talk a bit about Rick's life. And keep it kind of casual, just have a nice conversation. You guys can learn some English, learn some aviation, and I can learn too, because there's a lot for me to learn.
还有我们可以中文、英文夹杂一下。OK。
Yeah, 可以啊。如果突然想到，
我应该练习。
对，我也需要练习。对，所以如果突然想到，我们用中文可以了，那我们试试看。Let's try one more question, which I find interesting is你刚刚说讨论到武官，还有外交官，所以可能有一些台湾人不知道武官，武官是什么的 Pentagon，No，
不是 Pentagon，No， 不是，我可以给，我可以给你的观众介绍我的武官的工作 武官的工作很满意，这是我最后的空军的工作。作为武官，你在大使馆工作，你负责代表你的国家，所以作为武官在菲律宾我不但代表我的国家，而且我当我们的大使私人飞行员，所以我常常带我们的大使往各个菲律宾的城市，以他可能做跟外交有关的事，所以这是我的武官的工作。
OK， 我听说了，我以为武官是武官 five sides。
不是 ，Yeah， 武 as in 武器 ，like weapon。
这个武官。中文很难。
这也是我的问题。you mean
yeah？OK， 没有，就发音。
汉字不同的汉字。
对，看得会比较清楚。就是对外国人来的话，学中文的问题，发音比较难。那你之前有听说 Pentagon？ 你知道 Pentagon 中文怎么说？
我忘了。
忘了 ，OK。
我就是角 like angle 角。
五角冠。
No。
So I got focused. So 你之前cut away from that maybe. Sorry, I'm getting distracted now. So 你之前在我们的茶会讨论过 Pentagon。你是不是如果你继续当那个空军，你可以去 Pentagon？就是你说你不想要。
对。
可是可以讨论介绍一下 Pentagon 是什么？我们有一些学生不知道这是什么。
当然，Pentagon 是美国军队的主要的大楼，在那儿你在办公室工作，所以我更喜欢开飞机，所以当我的老板告诉我最我下一个工作是在Pentagon 的时候我拒绝收到那个工作，所以因为我更喜欢开飞机，所以我告诉我的老板谢谢你，可是我跟我的家人讨论这个选择，我们一起决定我会从空军退役，所以这是我
好的原因，
我给老板的原因。
了解，所以我发现用家庭也可以怎么说避免avoid
对，
避免很多事情对不起我的家庭要去照顾他们，
所有我的空军事业我避免在 Pentagon 工作。
好的。
很好的工作，也有的人很喜欢在那儿工作，可是在我看来这是不适
合你的，你就不喜欢那边。那这是很好，因为你可以留在亚洲，所以你很想也在你的体验，很多都在亚洲。你觉得就比较喜欢这里吗？亚洲、东亚这边吗？
对，我很喜欢在亚洲工作生活，特别是台湾。一共我在日本住了8年，所以因为
8年
还有我的太太是日本人所以我也很喜欢在日本工作和生活。这2个国家都很安全。台湾人台湾人比日本人友好得多，所以可是请别告诉我的太太。
是我们的秘密。
Yeah，
不用担心。
我听说你太太也是日本人，对不对？
对，就是我们一个一样的事情。我的太太是日本人，可是我太太在台湾念书的，可是我的日文很烂，都是我在台湾比较觉得学中文比较重要的，所以我的日文就马马虎虎，妈妈也那，就妈妈呢，对，可是我也同意，台湾人比较热情的，比较快乐，还是压力不会那么多。就是跟你刚刚说的，我发现台湾人会认真工作，下班就下班，然后就去唱歌 KTV， 还有所以两个都很好
好，
两个都很好。
其实我来台湾的时候，因为我的最喜欢的爱好是爬山，我加入一个当地登山社团，所以我每个星期天我跟他们一起去爬山。这些人很友好，他们热情的欢迎我，很好的机会，很好的经历，
台湾就是这样啊，所以我们要说谢谢台湾，
对，
要说谢谢台湾。好，那我们下个的具体就是我们已经讨论一下自己的体验，自己的生活，我们的学生想听一下，想学习一下别的事情，比如说航空之类的。Let me try again. OK， 所以下一个的主题就是我们可不可以讨论那个航空之类的，还有面试。Maybe we can use English, so our students are delighted. Our lovely students can also practice listening to English and give us a break.
我们的脑子可能学习一下，而休息一下，不是学习。
My brain is frazzled too. Okay, so let's try a bit of English and let students practice a bit too.
Sure.
So obviously, an important thing for our students is they're not pilots yet, and they are not applying as pilots. They are applying for the cadet pilot training program. So in that way, what do you think the airlines in Taiwan are looking for? What can the students do to be ready and prepare for these interviews?
Well, that's a really important question, Jordan. And I will only be able to give you my Western perspective, but I think that some of this advice is universal. When you go in for an interview, and this is whether you're applying for a pilot job or it doesn't really matter what career, the first thing is to prepare for the interview. And to prepare, do research on the company you're applying for. Know some basic information. What's their mission statement? What's their vision? Who are their leaders? How many employees do they have? What kinds of airplanes do they fly? Very basic stuff, because that could they could either directly ask you that question, or you can work it into the interview to show that you've done some research and are interested in that company. So that's my first piece of advice. Second piece of advice is present yourself well. Dress appropriately. When you walk in the room, walk in confidently, because especially going in for a pilot interview, they want to see a degree of confidence. Don't be arrogant, but be confident when you walk in the room. Smile. Don't laugh, but have a pleasant demeanor about you, because people want you to be congenial and friendly. They want to work with someone nice. So, and then engage with the interviewer, look them in the eye. If there's more than one, share equal time. Make sure you're looking at both people. This is probably stuff that your mom told you when you were a little child, but it holds true in an interview. During the interview, I don't like to use absolutes like never do this, but I would say never try to exaggerate your qualifications. Be honest with them. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. But don't try to exaggerate your experience, because they'll know. They'll be able to tell. And as soon as they feel that you're exaggerating something, they'll probably ask deeper questions, and you don't want that. At the end of the interview, at least in the United States, typically any human resources person that's doing an interview is going to ask, well, okay, thank you for your time today. Do you have any questions for us? And go in there, have a couple of questions that you want to ask them. Meaningful questions, you know, not like, what's your starting salary? I mean, do some research and make your questions something that you truly want to know about the company. So put some thought into that. And during the interview, you know, if they ask you a question like, tell me what's your weakness? You know, what's your greatest weakness? They'll probably ask you what's your greatest strength, or tell me about a time when type questions, like tell me about a time when you demonstrated leadership. But if they ask you, tell me about your greatest weakness, be careful with that one, because you don't want to sound like, well, my greatest weakness is I'm not smart. No, that's not a great answer, okay? But on the other end of the spectrum, you don't want to make it sound fake, like, oh, my greatest weakness is I work too hard.
Okay.
Right? That's very,
Cliché, right?
Yeah, it's a terrible answer. So make it like, for instance, mine. I've been asked that question in interviews before, and honestly, I feel like sometimes I am too detail-oriented when I get a project. I get too focused on details, and I forget the big picture. Okay, that's great. That's a decent answer, but make sure you follow up your weakness with how you try to fix it and how you have demonstrated that you've been working on it. In my case, you know, I tell the story about when my boss, I realized this weakness, and my boss gave me a project that I noticed I started to get too focused on the details, so I stepped back, asked a couple of people for some help, came back after I saw the big picture again, was able to complete the project without getting caught up in detail. I still made the deadline. My boss was happy with the result. Okay, you know, some people might read a book on self-improvement to improve their weakness. Whatever it is you've done to improve your weakness, bring that up. Don't just stop at, yeah, my greatest weakness is, how have you fixed it? That's important too. Okay. So those are some basic tips that I would give your cadet pilots.
Okay. So you have a bit of interview experience yourself, right? You've been an interviewer before. You've interviewed several people, I guess.
Yes.
What do you look for in those students, like personally, in terms of their personality, also knowledge? How do you evaluate your student?
Sure. Great question. As far as the knowledge goes, I'm going to assume that they've come in with a decent amount of knowledge, and if not, honestly, I don't care too much about that, because I teach them knowledge. What I can't teach is attitude. So when I interview someone, I want to see someone that's got a positive attitude, who's not overly confident, but not overly confident, who asks questions, is curious about the work, and offers what they bring to the company, not asking what the company can do for them. I know there was a U.S. president that said something similar.
John F. Kennedy.
Correct. Yeah. Ask not what your country can do for you, what can you do for your country.
Yeah.
And that's true. And present yourself that way. As an interviewer, I think that's a great quality. Tell me what you bring to the company. Focus on the company, not yourself. Certainly there will be times in the interview where you will, just by nature of the question, need to focus on yourself. But even then, try to, like, for instance, they tell me your greatest accomplishment. Okay. And then when you start telling them the story, make sure you give credit to other people. It's not all about you. Yes, and they'll know, okay, this guy led this project. That's clear. But you don't need to focus on that. Say, look, yeah, it was a really intimidating project. Once I started, I realized I needed to lean on my team. You know, person X did this. I asked person Y to do this. In the end, we worked as a team to get it together. It was, it was a success. But don't focus on yourself. And I think as an interviewer, I look more towards like this person's attitude and just overall personality, rather than focusing on technical knowledge. I mean, as a pilot, if you're coming in to an airline, well, in Taiwan, the hiring process is much different, right? So they don't expect you to have much experience, and they may test your technical knowledge a little bit. So be ready for sure. But I'm sure that they realized I can train this person to do anything, but what I can't train is attitude. So go in with a great attitude. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay, most important thing. So put down the books and just learn to be a good person.
Well, I don't want to say put down the books.
No, put down the books, just put them down a little bit, not as much, focus more on personality and attitude. Is there any way, that you can teach someone, say someone is like quite aggressive or arrogant, doesn't work well with others? Is that something they can solve, or is this just like, genetics and they're just stuck this way for life?
I mean, they can solve it. Just like I believe leaders are made, not born. That's an ongoing debate for all of history. Are leaders born or are leaders made? And I believe you can make a good leader through experience. I mean, more and more experience someone gets as a leader, the better the leader they will be, hopefully. And the same with someone who's arrogant. You can, but if I've got a choice of 100 candidates and I got one guy that's arrogant and one guy that's not, guess what? I'm going to choose the person, not guy, the person that's not, assuming that they have kind of an equal level of knowledge. So that's definitely a discriminator in my book. And, speaking of interviews, one thing I forgot to mention is practice with yourself, okay? Write down, if you have somebody that's gone through an interview recently and knows some of the questions, have someone interview you like you're interviewing me, and record yourself if you feel comfortable. Like, I hate listening to myself on a recording, and most people do.
We all, yeah.
but do it. This is an important interview for, this could be the rest of the career of your life. So treat it with respect and treat it as an important milestone in your life. Practice in front of a mirror, practice with a person sitting across from you, record yourself, and then listen like, ooh, I used a lot of and try to avoid that. Find out, oh, I didn't answer that question really well. Let me rephrase and come up with some better terminology, something like that. Yeah.
That's fantastic answer. So it's more, like you say, it's more about attitude, personality, and just prepare. What's that term? PP, 5 Ps.
Oh gosh, put me on the spot.
Perfect preparation
prevents piss poor performance.
Piss poor performance. That's it. Yes.
You made me say it. Okay, just for the record.
That was my fault. Yeah, that was my fault. But it's okay. We're all adults here. We can talk like that. But yeah, that's an interesting point. So like, I have so many questions I want to ask. So I'll try ask them in some kind of order.
Sure.
So I won't get too off tangent about something else. But you mentioned there about being aggressive, also being confident. And one issue that we've seen in aviation before is like the difference between aggressiveness and assertiveness. And some of our students get confused between these two words. I say don't be aggressive, but be assertive. What's the difference between these two qualities, and why are they important for pilots? And have you seen these two qualities in your field or in general aviation before?
Yeah, aggressive 有一个负面的意思。
比较负面。
Yeah, 好。Assertive 有一个正面的意思。Aggressive means you're just overly active, maybe taking control of the aircraft when you really don't need to be. Assertive is just like you're acting confidently. You're running check. You're being assertive, like proactive, running checklists right when you're supposed to. You're doing so confidently. So you're right to tell them no, aggressive. Be assertive, not aggressive. And there is a difference. Being an assertive pilot, means you're on top of things. You're running checklists when they're supposed to be doing run, and you're flying. You're doing the right maneuvers when you're flying the airplane. And you're doing so confidently.
Okay. Have you seen it in any real life situations where this type of attitude, aggressiveness, and maybe a lack of assertiveness has caused problems in aviation? We've seen some examples before, but
sure.
Could you explain some of them?
Yeah, sure. Typically, you're going to see captains will be overly aggressive sometimes, and then if the co-pilot is not assertive, it will shut down. I'll use the terminology first officer since that's more of a commercial term. But yeah, if the first officer or pilot monitoring is not assertive, it can really shut them down and make them not want to communicate at all. And that's not a healthy attitude in the cockpit. So yes, I have seen overly aggressive captains who just think that they can run the airplane without any assistance from the first officer. And that's a very poor example of how to be a captain. And I'm sure Taiwan does the same. In the US, we have crew resource management. I think it used to be called cockpit resource management, CRM, where we practice dealing with less than ideal personalities in the cockpit. One of which is the overly aggressive captain, because the person thinks they know everything. And then when they miss something, the first officer, afraid to speak up, lets it go because he thinks the captain
is king.
Is
right?
king.
Yeah.
And then, as you can imagine, they run into problems. So it's a hazardous attitude, is what we call it in the U.S. Commercial aviation world.
Hazardous attitude. Okay. So it's kind of like the right balance, right? Confident but not too confident.
Right.
Confident but humble. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So that does seem to be an issue that's happened before. It seemed like it was much worse in previously, 70s,
right.
80s,
90s.
So you think CRM is more or less fixed, not exactly entirely, but fixed many of these issues?
It has helped alleviate some of these issues. Yes.
Alleviate. That's a nice word. Alleviate.
Huanjie.
Huanjie.
Yeah.
Okay, Huanjie. I didn't even know that myself.
Some of these issues.
Okay.
Is that right, Alex? Is that a word? Huanjie.
I think
so. But yeah. But to this day, I mean, the statistics go unchanged over decades. 80% of Class A mishaps or aircraft crashes are caused by pilot error. And a lot of times that pilot error stems from poor crew resource management. So it's something we need to continuously work on. Most companies, I believe, have an annual requirement to refresh your knowledge on proper CRM so that we can recognize these hazardous attitudes. And then once we recognize them, take the appropriate action to mitigate or huanjie their effects.
Huanjie, I like that. Yeah. Huanjie. Alleviate, mitigate. I love these words. They're very nice words, actually. Very descriptive words. That's one reason why I enjoy being a teacher, is these nice words, which when students can use, will sound more fluent. So guys, use the word alleviate and mitigate. You're going to sound much more fluent. Yeah,
mitigate is a great word for a pilot because you're constantly mitigating 风险.
Function, yes.
Yes.
Function. What's function in English?
Risks.
Risks, okay. Risks. So mitigating risks, that's an important part. Risks will always happen. The important thing is to be on top of them and stop them from happening.
That's right. Aviation is an inherently risky business. And so I believe in the mantra safety first to an extent. Because if we truly put safety first, we would never leave the hangar. Okay, because aviation defies physics. And every day you take off from the runway, you're defying physics. Okay. So safety, it's important. It's very important.
So essentially, without those risks that other people have taken and still take today, life just wouldn't, nothing would happen in life. So you have to take these risks.
That's right.
I like that. Okay, it's good.
Just mitigate them.
Just mitigate them. Yeah, mitigate them. So talking about crew resource management as well, like in your own cockpit, you told me a bit earlier, we learned in the茶会, that one thing you liked about being in the Air Force is there's a certain sense of camaraderie and trust, and you fly with the same people every time. Like when you sit down, it's not like, oh, hi, what's your name?
Right.
It's, oh, good to see you again, you know. Could you tell us a bit more about your relationship with your co-pilots, other staff, and how does crew resource management fit into this?
Sure. Right. In the military, I knew the person sitting next to me, like you said. I knew their strengths. I knew their weaknesses. I knew their personalities. I knew how to mitigate any risk they posed to me and safety of the aircraft. In the commercial world, and I believe this is probably true to a certain extent in Taiwan, you don't necessarily know this person sitting next to you, who you're going to go defy physics with. And so you need to quickly build trust with them, and they need to build trust with you. How do you do that? Well, mostly the trust that you're going to have with this person is the trust in the company's training program, because otherwise you don't know the person. So you trust the training program of the company, and hopefully it's a good one. But you'll quickly find out, by the way this person acts, the way they talk on the radios, the way they run checklists, the way they fly the airplane. You'll quickly get to know their strengths and weaknesses. As a young first officer, hopefully you're noticing these things and can assertively fill in the gaps if there are any, and if there are not, great, you've got a well-functioning crew. The difference between, that was one of the challenges I had actually when I transitioned from military to commercial, was not knowing and not instantly trusting this person next to me, because I don't know how they do business. I trusted Delta's training program, and it's a good one. I have nothing but good things to say about Delta's training. But it's more of a leap of faith, if you will, a blind trust when you climb into the cockpit in commercial aviation.
Okay, wow. So 2 very different environments, both same jobs, flying a plane, but to you, completely different worlds.
Right.
Okay.
But I think, being a pilot, whether it's military pilot or commercial pilot, there are a lot of commonalities, a lot of things that they have in common. Flying is flying. It's whether you're driving a BMW or a Mercedes, okay, they have different controls, different ways of operating a little bit, but by and large, it's kind of the same. You turn the yoke to the left, you go left, right?
Okay, so it's not as much of flying itself, the environment and the company and the experience, I guess. You saying one difficulty being in Delta was like not really being able to trust your co-pilot. You did trust them, but you didn't have the same sense of that deep relationship. Were there any other types of issues you had whilst flying with Delta?
No, and let me clarify. I did trust my co-pilot. Okay, it was a different kind of trust. That's all. It was something I just wasn't used to, and it was something I had to work on. It was my challenge. But other issues, I mean, like commercial aviation is a wonderful industry. Highly encourage young cadet pilots to newly 学习, newly 工作, and try to, if this is your dream, chase it, and you will get there someday. It's a long 路程, but you will get there. With Delta, just the transition from military to commercial was a little difficult, but they have, a wonderful training program. Didn't really encounter any issues. All the issues I encountered were just because I was new with the company, and I don't think Taiwan commercial aviation has this problem, but I had to commute to my base. I lived in Washington, D.C., and my base was in New York City. So every time I had to go fly, I had to jump seat from D.C. to New York. And because I was new, I was sitting reserve, meaning I didn't have a set schedule. So I would fly to New York just to sit in a empty apartment within 2 hours of LaGuardia Airport, Kennedy, JFK, and Newark, being ready to go fly. But, and for me, I got into the game pretty late. But for these young folks that are listening to this, just getting into aviation, what a great time. You're just starting off in this career, and you'll continue down this road to become a pilot, and then you'll continue down the next road to become a captain, and just having a great view from your office.
Office in the sky.
It's a great career.
Okay, great to know. One concern I think many people have these days, obviously, is AI, and there's also a kind of joke about the aviation is like all you have to do is press autopilot, sit back, and let the plane do the rest. Obviously, it's just a joke. But where does this joke come from? And like, what would you say to that? And considering how we do use autopilot, do you think we should be worried about AI taking over at some point?
Wow, it's an interesting question. I mean, right now, the autopilot is a great tool. It's a great tool, but it's nothing more than a great tool. Just like flaps are a great tool, just like thrust reversers are a great tool. The autopilot helps alleviate pilot fatigue on long missions. So from a human perspective, it's a wonderful tool. Also, from a company perspective, the autopilot is a wonderful tool because it saves the company money. No matter how good a pilot you think you are, the autopilot will always fly more precisely than you. And by flying more precisely, you will save fuel. And by saving fuel, you save the company money. So autopilot is wonderful. And the autopilots today, when I came in, they were very rudimentary. That's how old I am. But today they're wonderful. They can take you down to landing, and they're great. Now, you talk about AI. I think we're heading down that road where someday you will see, maybe in your viewer's lifetime, not my lifetime. I think it's still a ways away where you will see AI controlled airplanes, human-free cockpits. Wow. We're already seeing that in cars. So we have to figure this out in the third dimension, and we have to figure out what happens in the case of an emergency. How does AI handle an emergency? Because you said your initial question was, a lot of people think flying is just putting the autopilot on. Well, if everything goes perfectly, you're not far from the truth. But the issue is when you start having problems with the airplane, or air traffic control reroutes you to a different route. Those questions are still not solved by having an autopilot. So right now, I think our pilots' jobs are safe. Okay. But I do think in the future, we'll see. AI is already in just a few years has really changed people's lives, mostly for the better. There's a lot of debate about how to control AI. How much should we really be relying on AI? But I do think in aviation, my guess is that AI will first start piloting cargo aircraft, with no humans no passengers on board. That's kind of the way vehicles like cars have gone. Like I think in the United States, we're seeing a lot of AI-driven tractor trailers, like big trucks with cargo, but not with humans, not yet. And I think always there will be somebody up front, at least monitoring. So that's a ways away, but I do think you're correct that AI is going to have a great influence over aviation.
Okay, that's good to know then. So a little bit scary too, I guess, for some people. For the pilots losing their jobs, maybe. The flight engineer lost their job before due to
correct
advancements in technology. And also the biggest concern would be probably not so much like, does the technology work, but will people trust it? And for me, I think that'll be the biggest hurdle. Because my background is more like IT, so I kind of have a somewhat understanding of it, like rudimentary as well. But it will get there eventually. It definitely will. Now, the biggest concern is just, will people trust it? And I think what will actually happen is one day people will see the prices of the flights and they'll be like, wow, that's really cheap. I'm going.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
I think that's how it's going to work.
Labor and fuel are the number one and number two highest costs for an airline. And if they can reduce costs with labor, they will, as long as they can maintain safety, because safety is paramount.
Absolutely, yeah. Paramount. Paramount is a good word. It's a movie studio, but what does paramount mean?
Paramount also means of utmost importance.
Of utmost
Very important. 最重要的.
最重要的. Okay, good to know. Paramount. So in case you're wondering, we're not talking about the movie company.
Right.
Okay. So kind of moving on from that then, are there any just particularly interesting experiences you have as an Air Force pilot? Because the biggest difference between Air Force or any kind of military kind of job, especially as a pilot, compared to commercial. Commercial is a bit more static. You fly from Mumbai to New York, New York to Singapore maybe. nothing. The mission is just to get from from A to B.
Correct.
For you, your job is a bit more complicated than that. You're not just going from A to B. Sometimes you are, but your mission is a lot more complicated, a lot more nuanced. Can you tell us some of your experiences, like some interesting experiences, certain flights that you're allowed to tell us about?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and I don't want
to.
Yeah, certainly commercial aviation, although it's, even though it's quote unquote just flying people from A to B, it's a hugely important job. I mean, you're taking people either to go on business trips or go on vacation, but you're satisfying a need for people, a very important need for people to be able to travel quickly and get to where they need to be quickly. And it's a wonderful industry. Yeah, military aviation is quite different. As a C-130 pilot specifically, every day was different. I could one day be dropping Army paratroopers out the back of the airplane, and the next day flying from point A to point B. I think probably my most interesting flight, I flew old 40-year-old C-130s almost my whole career. So I've had a lot of emergencies.
You're still here, so you did a good job.
My takeoffs have equaled my landings, that's the pilot's measure of success, okay? You don't want to ever have more takeoffs than landings. That's bad. But I would say, so I don't want to bore your audience with my emergencies. We could probably teach some lessons learned from some of these emergencies, but I think that's probably too detailed. I will say, though, my most exciting flying was when I was in Alaska. As a C-130 pilot, we practiced flying low level. So flying 300 feet, at 300 knots, which is a very fast speed for a C-130. Okay. 300 knots at 300 feet above the ground in mountainous terrain. Beautiful. Definitely attention getting. You have to be paying attention. Your situational awareness has to be at the top of its game all the time in those conditions. But you would fly a low level, and then the low level would end in an airdrop. You would airdrop Army paratroopers or heavy equipment with a big parachute on the back. Really exciting stuff. But in Alaska, also, a big part of our mission there was to fly to these long-range radar sites, which are on the west coast of Alaska. And they're built, because it's a radar site, they're built on the sides of, on the top of a mountain. There's no roads there. So to resupply the people that take care of these radars, we flew into a runway that was built on the side of the mountain. Very steep, up. And this was a special qualification. And by the way, for your listeners, as you get into aviation, and I talk about these special qualifications, if there's any opportunity for you to do something kind of non-standard or special qualifying or special qualifications required, always volunteer. Gets you more training. Anytime you have an opportunity to get training, take it. Always raise your hand for something like that. And because you never know when in the future you may need that, or that qualification could help you get another job. For example, in the military, I was qualified to fly on night vision goggles. And that's a special qualification. And it turns out it helped me get a job after I retired from the Air Force, because this company was looking for someone with night vision goggle experience. So always take an opportunity to get training. But anyway, these runways in Alaska, they're 3,000, like a 1,000 meter long dirt or gravel airstrip on the side of a mountain, where the slope of the runway is 10 degrees.
Wow.
8 to 10 degrees. And that literally you can ski down this runway and go fast.
Wow.
So flying into those, and oh, by the way, the instrument procedure in there was extremely unreliable. The weather was always terrible. So it was a real, and if it was in the winter, it was ice on the runway. Very challenging environment. You really had to rely on it, the entire team, to get you safely on the ground there. Every crew position in the C-130, flight engineer, co-pilot, pilot, navigator, loadmaster, the person in the back, all had specific responsibilities to ensure we landed that aircraft safely. So that was the most exciting flying I did, just in general. So certainly had some really fun other experiences. You know, I've flown the First Lady of the United States on my C-130. She was desperate for a ride. No, but that was extremely rewarding. It was a wonderful experience to be able to have someone that high level on my my old airplane.
Yeah, I bet.
So yeah, a lot of cool stories. But you know what? As a commercial pilot, you're going to have some interesting stories too. No, that's the beauty of being a pilot. Every day is a new challenge.
Okay. Wow. So they have as many challenges as you do, just different challenges.
Just different challenges.
Yep. Are you allowed to tell us which First Lady, or is that a secret?
Oh no, it's not a secret. This was back in 1996. Okay, I was a young captain, and I was in Bangladesh at the time, doing an Air Force exercise, a joint exercise with the Bangladeshi Air Force. And First Lady Hillary Clinton, she was in the capital of Bangladesh at the time and needed a ride from Dhaka to Jessore, which is where we were. And I got tasked to do that mission. Nice. And when we pulled up, so we flew to Dhaka International Airport, and when we pulled up to the parking ramp, they had rolled out a red carpet for us. That's the only time I've ever seen a red carpet rolled out for a C-130. So it was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, wow. So yeah, you got a lot of good experiences from that then. That's you seem quite I guess quite fond of the C-130 too. You know, hearing you talk about it, you almost seem to treat it like your baby almost. What makes a C-130 so special? Because there's a lot of planes in the military, many big, many small. What makes it so special, and what was its main purpose?
Yeah, what makes it special is its longevity. It's been in service now for, 60-something years. I mean, it's definitely evolved. They now fly the C-130J model, which is almost flies airline speeds, but it still has that short field takeoff and landing capability. So its longevity makes it special. The fact that they were able to engineer this aircraft when they did and make it so capable, it's an engineering marvel. Second thing is its versatility. The C-130 is such a versatile aircraft. It can do so many different missions. In the United States Air Force or the United States military, we use the C-130 to do everything from taking passengers from point A to point B, taking cargo from point A to point B. We have Hurricane Hunter C-130s that intentionally fly themselves into the eye of a typhoon to take measurements and help predict the typhoon or hurricane's track. We have C-130s that can put out forest fires. They drop extinguishing agent out the back. We have C-130s that are operating in special operations, and they can do some really interesting things too. Like we have one that has a very big gun on it. And so, yeah, but mostly, you know, it's a function of the fact that it's a turboprop aircraft. It can land on an extremely short airfield. So that capability, it doesn't, in an unimproved, meaning doesn't have to be a nice runway like here at Taoyuan. Yep. It can be a gravel or a dirt or grass strip. So it's a very versatile aircraft. And I do treat it like my baby. It's very, I'm very fond of the C-130, and really, I was honored to be able to fly it as long as I did.
That's amazing. Yeah. Then, did you give it a name? Did you christen it? You know,
I did have my name on the side of one for a while. Our headquarters decided to be a motivating factor to stencil the aircraft commanders' names on every one of the airplanes. So I had my name on one for a while.
Okay.
You know, it's called the Herc. C-130 Hercules is its official name.
The Hercules.
So, but we called it the Herc, or some people had other names, or some people that were jealous called it derogatory names.
Oh,
no.
I bet they were just jealous, yes.
Yeah. For fans of freedom.
For fans of freedom. That's a very American term.
Yeah.
I like that. I like it. Oh, that's cool. I say, It's interesting because the C-130 does like have a relationship to Taiwan, which obviously you'll be much aware of.
Yes.
But for many of our viewers, they won't quite understand it, I guess. The C-130, especially your one, what was your model? 6?
Well, I flew E's and H's. I think you're referring to the 63 model.
63
yeah,
model.
which is an E model aircraft, very old. Yeah, I flew E's and H's.
And that was here in Taiwan, way back. Let me check my notes. I'm not good with dates.
Oh, okay.
This was back in Taichung on June, well, not just June, but like in 1972. It was a part of the 386 Expeditionary Operations Group. So more or less my question is, what was a plane like that doing in Taiwan at the time? How important was it to the U.S. Air Force? Yeah.
那架飞机太棒了。因为就不是386well yeah 就是 yeah 我很荣幸2007年在伊拉克我驾驶了他的最后一次飞行。但是在此之前，越南战争的时候，那架飞机驻扎在台湾清川空军基地。那时候那架飞机支持驻扎在越南的军队。现在因为那架飞机太旧了，空军退役了那架飞机。所以2007年的时候，当我最后一次执行任务时，那架飞机已经44岁了，太棒了，太棒了。所以有一个跟台湾有关的事。
好有趣哦，很有趣哦，就是你来到台湾学中文啊，就是来这里学中文啊，可是你原来已经有这个关系啊，所以我们可以说缘分，fate. Yeah, 缘分. It's almost like fate that you came to Taiwan to study, that the plane that your beloved plane, the C-130, was here in Taiwan just for the Vietnam War, 越南的战争. And did you get a chance during the time here? Did you get a chance to go to Taichung to see this airport or anything? Or would you?
I just came from Taichung. I was giving a presentation to FTTW students there. I didn't get a chance to go to the airport. I saw the Gautierjian.
Okay.
I did not see the airport.
Maybe if you get a chance,
Wonderful
you can go down and see. Maybe who knows? Maybe some of the people who worked on that plane might be living there still. You might get some information. So
maybe
I think that'd be a nice little trip. You could do maybe try to find some contacts and a nice wee trip down memory lane. That could be. So talking like going into Taiwan, like our relationship with Taiwan. My next question would be like why. Not FTTW, sorry, is like why did you choose Taiwan? Did you choose Taiwan or did you get sent here? And why are you here in FTTW today? Like I'm coming to our schools.
Oh yeah. I'm so fortunate to be in Taiwan. I'm right now I'm learning Chinese for 1 year here, and I will next year be going to the mainland to work. I did request to come to Taiwan for my language school. I understand. I'm learning in Dalu. I will be reading Genti, so it'll be a little more difficult. But mostly it's for this. For my job, I need to be able to speak. So it's not a huge problem. But why am I here at FTTW? Because right now in my language school is a Hanja. 所以我不要上课，可是虽然我不要上课，老师们就给我一个项目，and so all the students had to pick somewhere to go do a practicum or an internship, 实习，and because I love aviation. I tried to find something to do with aviation because I miss it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I'm a retired pilot, I still have aviation in my heart. So I thought if there was a way I could connect being able to speak some Chinese with my true passion, which is flying airplanes, that would be ideal. So I just did a little research on the internet and I found FTTW. I came here and asked if there was any possibility of me just hanging out, talking Chinese about aviation related topics. And they said yes. So here I am.
Nice. Congratulations. Well, yeah, please say welcome as well. Yeah. So that's great to hear. And that's the nice thing of being in Taiwan is it's a bit more 随便. You know, to deal with these things, I feel like in the US or UK too, it's not as easy to do just certain things like here. You can just sort of come in and be like, okay, yeah, you know, we'll chat a little bit and we'll arrange something. But it's quite nice about here. Just things can happen quite quickly.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your boss, Stephen, and Laura for giving me this opportunity. Is wonderful, and I hope I'm able to give something back in exchange.
You have already, don't worry. Yeah, like the students have all enjoyed the Cha Hui and the Shuoming Hui. They've learned a lot from it for sure. Because it's different, you know, they're studying, most of their folks on commercial aviation. So it's still nice to hear, like, from a different perspective, of course, you know, in the Air Force. Like we say, different fields, different challenges and responsibilities, but still, it's important for them to understand and learn about it too. Do you think there's like any connection at all, like from your Air Force perspective, what like advice would you give to students about understanding the Air Force? Do you think it's important for them to understand the Air Force and pilot life too?
I mean, if you have the opportunity, look, I've been on both sides. I've flown Air Force aircraft. I've flown civil aviation aircraft. Flying's flying. Yeah, the military uses slightly different techniques and their mission is quite different, but it's still flying airplanes. And so if you have the opportunity to engage or even be engage with or even be an Air Force pilot, hey, it's a great opportunity. You can learn something from them as well. I mean, it'll be a slightly different conversation, but in the end, the same physics applies to military aircraft as to civil aviation aircraft. So, yeah, I encourage. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in your life. And so if you have an opportunity to discuss aviation with Air Force pilots, hey, do it. You can probably learn something and they can probably learn something from you too.
All right, fantastic. It's good to know then. So we can all learn from something. That's your advice, just
keep learning.
Keep learning. Yeah, that seems to be the most important thing.
Training. I mean, I said my motto is work hard, play hard, but it's also the three most important things in aviation, training, and training. I mean, you can never get enough. Flying airplanes is a perishable skill, meaning if you don't do it for a while, your muscle memory will go away. Okay. It's not like riding a bicycle. I can go 5 years without riding a bicycle and I can still do it.
Okay.
But I don't think I can go 5 years without flying and still just jump in a cockpit and go. I would be rusty.
Okay, of course, it's a lot more complicated than here than a bicycle. Just a little bit.
Well, plus things change over the course of time too, and you need to keep up with the most current aviation trends.
That's true. When was the last time you flew?
Oof, too long ago. I was in Japan at the time, and I had already retired and started my second career, but I volunteered as an instructor pilot at the local aero club because I couldn't make money on the side. So I said, okay, it's fine. I'll volunteer just so I can fly aircraft. So that was 6 years ago. So it's been 6 years. Yeah.
Wow, 6 years. Quite a while, yeah.
Yeah, lots changed.
You must be really missing it.
Yeah, I do.
Is there not any other way, like, you could still fly somehow? Like,
yeah, there is. I mean, I keep my FAA certification as an instructor pilot. So I would just need to, brush off some cobwebs and rust, go fly for an hour or two, and then I could start teaching students again.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have like an experience school, like where they fly like a small, I don't know, I forget which type of plane it is, but they fly a small plane just for an experience around Poly-N. Who knows? Maybe I'll put in a good word and we can
Okay.
you can fly that. Much smaller, and it's for fun. You know, it's recreational, so I think you'll enjoy it. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with a small airplane. I started in a Cessna 172. It's a fine aircraft.
Yeah, they are. Cessnas are good planes. You know, they get the job done.
They do.
Okay, so maybe another question talking about like instructors, because one person I've spoken with here who has done private CPL training. She done it through self-funded. I remember talking to her. She said one issue she had is she didn't like her instructor because she said she felt like the instructor was just doing it for flying hours, like more or less. They didn't care about the actual teaching, or maybe they did, but
just trying to build a resume as an instructor,
something like that. She got that kind of feeling, and she wasn't too happy with him. Is this like have you seen this before? You know, is this a thing that happens? And if one of our students encounters this, an instructor they don't really like, they don't get along with, you know, what do you think they could do?
Well, certainly if you're self-funding your training, going through a CPL program, and you don't get along with your instructor, you're paying for that training. So you're the boss. And if you don't like your instructor, you need to ask the company or the training company's chief pilot or whoever is in charge of assigning instructors. Hey, it's just not working for me. Can you reassign an instructor? I mean, if it's just a couple of minor things you think you can work out on your own with the instructor, do it. But don't settle for less than high quality instruction when you're paying for it, for sure. Now, after you get your CPL or if you are with a company and the company is paying for your training, slightly different situation. But if you're not getting along with your instructor, it may not be anything personal. It's just maybe their teaching style doesn't match your learning style. And if you've tried to fix it, you should try to fix it first. But if that's still not working, you need to request a different instructor. Again, it doesn't have to be personal. You just have different styles. And so it's in the company's interest in that case to change instructors because they want you to learn as quickly as possible. So let's get an instructor that matches your learning style. So I would say, two slightly different scenarios if you're paying for training versus if your company's paying for training. But similar advice, you should try to work it out with your instructor. And if you can't, request a change. Okay.
It's kind of similar to what you said before, like you just kind of have to stand up for yourself a little bit. You know, it doesn't mean anybody's wrong. Just means it's not working out, and you just got to be honest. Yeah, voice your opinion. Be
diplomatic about how you approach it. You know, don't like I always another mantra: don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk.
Nobody likes dealing with a jerk, but I mean, but you do need to take charge. Be assertive about your training. It's your training, and you want to be the best pilot you can be. So get the instructor that matches your learning style.
All right. Okay. Great news. So stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. There's a word I could use. Don't be a little, you know what. I can't say that word today.
I can
guess. Maybe hopefully they can figure out too. Okay then. We have mentioned that flying is a inherently dangerous job. You know, not every plane lands safely. Just 2 days ago, there was a crash in Kazakhstan, was it? And you know, there's always crashes happening for one reason or another, which can be easy for anyone to deal with, or you have to think about this. You're aware of this, but have you ever, like in the aviation? Is there anybody you've like lost, like in the military that you've lost, like any friends or family, or just people that you knew of who had been involved in accidents?
Well, I hope this isn't your last question. We can't end on such a down note, but
no, I've got some more after.
I'm sure. I mean, I've been in the military long enough, and been in combat environments enough to know some friends and coworkers that have given their lives for their country. And it just it hurts. I mean, and you know, even as commercial pilots, it's much more unlikely that you're going to face that situation. But you could. And yeah, losing friends is just unfortunately a fact of military flying, especially when you're really flying in some high-risk environments. Yeah, I remember the first good friend I lost. He was my roommate in pilot training, and he went on, and we were T-38 instructors together, and then he went on to fly a different aircraft, and he had an emergency procedure, and he had to eject out of the aircraft. And during the ejection, the airplane literally fell apart, and one of the wings hit him and killed him. Pretty devastating. I mean, this was a young man in his late 20s, had a wife and a small child. Really shook us pretty hard. And then, yeah. So that was one of a few unfortunate events. Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, but yeah, appreciate you sharing that though.
Sure.
I mean, how would you deal with that? Is it like, emotionally, how can pilots overcome this?
Well, as a pilot, it's extremely important to compartmentalize. When you go fly an airplane, you can't be thinking about the friend you lost yesterday. You can't be thinking about the fight you had with your wife the night before. You need to focus on safe operation of the aircraft. So in your downtime, you process this emotion that you had about losing a friend. If you need to take some leave, take some vacation to process it, do so. If you need to lean on your family and friends, that's what I did to get through that period of time. Have a memorial service where you all tell stories about the person you just lost. That helped heal the wound. But yeah, whatever you need to lean on during times of emotional stress, whatever helps you, that's what you need to do. For me, it was just gathering with friends and family and just remembering this person in a good way.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Sure.
It is a difficult topic. But, as we said, being a pilot isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's challenges to it. And, death is a part of that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In Taiwan, there's always been some accidents. Pilots have lost their lives. So, at times, it is important to address this, and we have to be mature and deal with it properly.
Yeah. And then from the personal perspective aside, from a professional perspective, when there are accidents like that, it's the most important thing is to learn from them. Because statistics year after year show that 80% of aircraft mishaps are due to pilot error. A lot of them controlled flight into terrain. Unfortunate, could be a clear day, an aircraft still crash into the side of a mountain. And, we try to improve those statistics every year. Automation helps, but it's never going to be perfect. As long as there's a human in the cockpit, there's going to be those kinds of mistakes. I think probably it was the worst accident that I was witness to, but it had the best result that came out of an awful situation. This is in Alaska. It's a Boeing 707. We call it an AWACS. It's an airborne command and control platform. It had just taken off from Elmendorf Air Force Base, and it made a left turn. And as it was making a left turn, a flock of Canadian geese flew down the left, the port side engines, numbers 1 and 2 engines, completely took them out. And because it was in a left-hand turn, the extra thrust from the engines on the right side rolled the airplane over. All aircrew members, and it's a large crew, they all died. And it was just an absolute tragedy. The airbase community was in shock for a long time. But as a result of that accident, the Bird Aircraft Strike Hazard Program was born, and it mitigated the effects that the danger that birds pose to aircraft. All our Air Force bases revitalized their anti-bird bird strike programs, really came up with some innovative ideas on how to fix this problem. And as a result, we've greatly reduced our mishaps that have been caused due to bird strikes. So
that's good to hear then. Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's funny you said Canadian goose, because I was the same. It was a Canadian goose that struck Captain Sully's plane on the that landed in the Hudson River.
Yeah, I think it might have been. They're a big bird. Yeah.
It must have been. It must have been.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think it was a Canadian goose, and I like to bring up this example of the ideal pilot, because if you've seen the movie, you know, like what he done was he kind of broke protocol and he turned off the APU immediately, or more or less immediately, rather than following the checklist. And they say that because he done that, he had to save the plane. If he had waited and followed the procedure, in that situation, the plane would have just likely crashed into New York. So I find that interesting. Actually, like they always get told, you know, follow protocol, follow the rules. But there's times where actually you can't, and you know you have to act on instinct. So again, you know, for dangerous situations like that, you know, how do you balance like following protocol? How do you balance following your own thinking, where you've got your experience and you just know something's the right thing to do? How do you balance something like this? Is that?
Oh yeah, that's part of what we call in the U.S. airmanship. Just having that knowledge in your brain and about doing the right procedure in the right time all the time. And when you have an emergency procedure like that, following the book is very important, because those books often are written in blood. Warnings that there are in checklists and operation manuals, they're there for a reason. Probably because either somebody died or an aircraft crashed as a result of not following that procedure. So I can't emphasize enough, following procedures is very important, paramount. But yeah, if you decide, because this situation is maybe not standard or something that's not completely addressed in your checklist, you decide to deviate, you're risking things. Right? If Captain Sullenberger did that procedure and it wasn't successful, guess what? He would have been questioned severely. But it worked out. And so, you know, he may have, you know, his flexibility, adaptability, resilience to that situation saved hundreds of lives and prevented the death of probably thousands of lives, potentially. So yeah, he took a risk, but he ended up doing the right thing. You just that risk needs to be very well calculated, because typically following the written procedures is the right answer.
Okay. Follow procedures. You can't be, not everyone's good enough to break protocol and.
No, and I'll tell you a first-hand story that addresses this. I was flying a C-130, and we were over the middle of the Pacific Ocean between Japan and Alaska, middle of the night, very dark in the cockpit, and all of a sudden the number 3 fire light came on, and the book says, and I remember the boldface: condition lever feather, fire handle pull, agent discharge for fire. That's the boldface, meaning you have to memorize that procedure, and that's the right procedure. So in this case, you know, I followed the checklist. Condition lever feather. I confirmed with the flight engineer, number 3, confirmed, pulled it back, confirmed number 3 fire handle, confirmed, pulled the fire handle. I then asked the load master in the back, hey, what are you seeing back there, load on number 3? And he said, it's standing tall, which in a propeller aircraft is a good thing. That means it's feathered. Okay, the propeller's feathered, and I'm looking at the engine instruments and they all look good. The fuel flow is 0. The EGT, their exhaust gas temperature, is going towards 0. Everything looks good, but the light stayed on. And so the book says agent discharge for fire. So I said, confirm. I fired 1 bottle of agent. We have 2. And after I fired the first one, I again asked the loadmaster, hey, how's it looking? He said, sir, it's still standing tall, no indication of fire. but the light stayed on. So the book says I should fire the second bottle. And I decided no. And I discussed, it wasn't a decision I made on my own. I discussed this with the flight engineer, who's my systems expert. I discussed it with my first officer co-pilot. And we all agreed, no, let's not fire the second bottle. What if this is a false fire light, which sometimes happens, and then we have a real fire in another engine, and now I've got no extinguishing agent to put that real fire out. So I deviated from the book. Turns out we landed. Long story short, because there was a couple other interesting things that happened there, but bottom line is we landed, and when the repair team came out to fix the airplane, they discovered it was a faulty fire control box, which is an electrical piece of equipment. So it was a false fire light. So turns out I made the right decision, but guess what? If that engine was on fire and because I didn't fire that second bottle, it incurred more damage, I would have been questioned.
Wow.
So you take risks. They're calculated risks.
Yeah, calculated risks. Okay, that's a tough decision to make. That's a very, very tough decision to make. I don't know. I don't think many people would be able to handle that kind of pressure and be in that kind of situation. So, yeah, that's incredible. It's incredible hearing your stories, actually. Just to be like, wow, this is like what people really do. You know, this is you know, you hear about these stories online and see them in TV shows, but I think it's another thing to just actually be sat here with somebody who's actually experienced it and being like, oh wow, this is a real person.
It happens.
You know? And it happens, like I think you know, obviously for us, like we have this image you know, of military and pilots being like these very strict and stern people, but it's great just talking to you right now because you're very down to earth and very chill, and you know, we met up before, by the way. We had a couple of drinks. You know, yeah, very cool guy.
Very fun.
So I think it's an experience for all of us. Actually, even for me to meet new people, because it's my first time actually really speaking with an Air Force pilot. So I've learned a lot today too.
Well, great. I enjoyed it.
I think. Is there anything else that we missed from there?
No, I mean, I got a ton of stories, but I think they will bore your audience. I think the most important thing, I mean, I truly want to, I hope that some of this was valuable to the cadet pilots that are watching this. Aviation is a wonderful career, and I'm sure that they have a brilliant future ahead of them. Aviation's headed in a great direction. I remember when I first came in, there was no GPS. There was RNAV. There was
stars.
There were stars. Yeah. No, the C-130, we used an instrument called the sextant, which is what Magellan used to navigate the world back in the 15th century.
Have you given a sextant on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not kidding you. That was the navigator's main job. When we were going across the Pacific Ocean, he'd be shooting the stars.
That's incredible. You know, actually, a kind of related term is Starlux as well. Like Starlux gets its name because the founder's father was like a sailor, like was on the boats back in the day, and he used to use a sextant as well, like navigated using the stars. So Starlux gets his name exactly from that, and it's a great name. But it's fascinating to think that, you know, back in the day, before GPS, before all this technology, you know, 500 years ago, people would just get a giant wooden boat with no electricity, and then just go around the world. So it goes to show how far we've came.
Yeah, but aviation's it'll go even further. I mean, don't sweat about losing your job to AI yet, okay? But I mean, with the advent of GPS and AI will help us even more to help relieve some pilot duties for now. But the advent of new technologies is going to, I think, result in even better platforms for the airline industry. We'll soon see, you know, supersonic aircraft travel come back. I mean, we've had it before with the Concorde, but I think it's going to become more prevalent. And even hypersonic. I think they're testing hypersonic commercial aviation. So future looks bright.
Nice. It sounds cool. Sounds awesome. Elon Musk leading the way.
No comment.
No comment.
Okay.
I think that tells us our answer. I mean, actually, so how about like going into 2025, because it is December 27th today.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the time with your
圣诞
family.
节快乐.
圣诞节快乐. We're going now into 2025, year of the dragon. Is that correct? We're going into the year of the dragon. Any last bit of advice or just any words you want to share with us and our viewers and our listeners going into 2025?
Just keep going on your path. Don't let other people tell you what you can and cannot do. This is your dream to become a pilot. Fulfill it to the best of your ability. And if you fail, whether it be a failure at an interview, failure at a training flight, failure of an evaluation, don't worry. Everybody fails. I failed. I'll tell you my personal story of failure. I was in Air Force pilot training at the time. So there was no certainty that I was going to be a pilot. It was a very uncertain time. And I failed an evaluation, my formation evaluation. We were flying formation in T-38, and I failed. And I can remember exactly what I did at that time. The important thing was I learned from that failure. I recovered, never made that mistake again in my Air Force career. It dropped me down a few notches in the ranking, such that I had to come back as a T-38 instructor instead of going to a fighter aircraft, which is what I really wanted to do. But you know what? There was a reason for it. I believe it was fate. I really enjoyed my time as a T-38 instructor. You're going to fail, okay? In this profession, it's inevitable. At some point, you will fail. There's those who have and those who will. But that doesn't matter. Learn from your failures and make them successes. A lot of times, as a result of failure comes great success. And that's usually what happens. I mean, look at the inventions that have been created time after time. It's because of previous failures that they finally succeeded in making something wonderful. So don't be afraid to fail, and just work hard, play hard.
Yeah, work hard, play hard. Yeah, I like that. I love it. Wow, we learned so much. Thank you very much, Romeo.
You're welcome. Thank you.
See you guys next time. Hopefully, good luck and all the best in your future. Okay.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.